You digging it, Dave?
Doing good, brother. Doing good.
All right. Let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Nah,
Woo!
let's just play tunes instead. I think a lot of people stay and listen to tunes. What do you think, everybody? You want to listen to the tunes? You want to listen to the two of us?
Yeah, there you
Throw
go.
it
Yeah,
out there in the questions chat section.
type something in there. You want to listen to the tunes or us? Well, we're going to make this decision for them. All right. And I got one question. What happened to funk number 48? This one's funk number 49. What happened to funk 1 through 48 for that matter? All right, that's enough of that. How are we doing, my friends? Welcome back to another edition of Takeo After Dark with your hosts. I'm John Barba, joined by my good friend Dave Holdorf. We're minus a man. We're down a man. Jason Cox is actually he's out working the Salt Lake City territory. So he's out pressing the flesh and making some friends and getting to meet some people and doing what he needs to do to continue to fill Rick Mayo's shoes. And so far so good. He's doing a great job, and we're pretty psyched to have him. But we're also psyched to be floral and here with you. You're looking good, Dave.
Hawaiian, baby. Oh, I gotta get ready.
What do are we having a Mai Tai?
No. Tonight is a bottle of redemption.
Redemption. Ooh.
Yep.
I am going with Polar
Sparkling.
Lime or Trader Joe's Lime Sparkling Water because I like to party. All right. I like to party. All righty, here we go. Got Rich McGrath. When I asked what happened to funk numbers 1 through 48, he said it's the same thing that happened to preparations A through G.
Yeah.
That works.
Test that one out. Yeah. Yeah. You want to test out preparation A?
No. I give me beer C. I don't want to be the first guy. Anyway, so
this is weird, but we took a weird turn for the start. We usually do this at the
right
end.
away.
And yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me that McGrath was involved in this. He knows that both you and I are very easily led astray. That's just how that works. So anyway, welcome to part 7 of Takeo After Dark for the spring of 2025. Tonight we're going to be talking about indirect water heaters, sizing, making sure they're piped properly, understanding what the specs tell us, understanding things like recovery and stored capacity, and we're going to discuss how mixing valves can really help you turn a little tank into a bigger tank just by the simple act of mixing. So with that,
I want to
go ahead, Dave.
I want to add one thing to this too, because this topic is one of those topics out there that is so undervalued. You know, people run out of hot water all the time in their houses and don't do anything about it. I think for us in this industry, this is the one time that we can walk into somebody's house as a hero. Because when you're there, you're already there for something to repair, fix, do whatever, service. There's a bill at the end. There'll be a bill at the end of this as well, but you can offer them a solution to something that they don't know they have a problem to. That's the interesting thing. That's the way I like to look at it. It's you're presenting a solution to something that, you know, they didn't know they could fix. They knew they waited for hot water, but not waited, but ran out of hot water. So I think it's a different way to think about it when you go and take a look at somebody's house here.
Yeah, most people think when they run out of hot water, well, that's just the way it is. Right. Just the way it is. And unless I get a bigger water heater or something like that, we're kind of stuck. But there are things that can be done, and a simple mixing valve can go an awful long way. So as you may have noticed, the James Gang is tonight's power trio. All right. Headlined by Joe Walsh, the great Cleveland guitarist, and two other guys that are lost to history. I looked up their names. I never heard of either of them. It was Joe Walsh and two other guys. with the James Gang. That's just the way it was. Till Joe Walsh left the band in 1971 to go on to do some solo stuff and eventually join the Eagles. Joe Walsh, by the way, Dave, I'm putting you in charge of this just in case, and just in case my plans don't work out and I die before you do. What I want you to do is make sure that my funeral song is Joe Walsh, "Life's Been Good to Me So Far."
Okay.
That's what I want. I don't want anything else. That's all I want. I want that song played at my funeral while everybody's walking out, because I think that would just be appropriate.
Thoughts for your funeral. I was going to do "Pop Goes the Weasel."
And have me like pop up and
I was going to rig something so you'll pop up out of there.
You're not well. I thought I was weird, man. Wow. All right, very good. Okay. With that, I got nothing. I got nothing. We're done. So anyway, here's our cast of characters. You know, the two guys, the James Gang, of course, is our theme, our power trio of the evening. We got Dave over on one motorcycle, Jason riding shotgun, and me, Joe Walsh, take your pick over on the right-hand side. I can't remember the other two guys' names. I looked them up today. I can't remember the other two guys' names. So, oh well. Anyway, that is our power trio of tonight for tonight. And again, our entire spring theme has been great power trios. So we get two left. We got to think of two more power trios. And I don't think the Kingston trio qualifies as a power trio. They're a folk trio. I'm not sure it's the same thing. But anyway, the James Gang live in concert. That's us. Let's ride, my friends. Let's ride and get that. And maybe by the end, we can get to Funk 50 or even Funk number 51. That would be cool. I've told this story many times, but as Dave will tell you, I don't mind repeating myself over and over and over again. This discussion about what an indirect water heater is capable of doing started a long time ago. And again, just I'm sorry I forgot to do this. Let's just take a quick check. I'm guessing everybody can hear us. That's terrific. Do me a favor, just chime in where you're from. Okay, we got about 45 of you out there. Chime in, just a hi, hello, how are you? And tell us where you're from and where you're calling in from. Douglas, thank you. You can't tell Joe and John apart. Thank you. And that's the nicest thing I think anybody said to me today. I appreciate that. Great. We got Orlando and Wyoming checking in, Anchorage, Alaska, Appleton, Wisconsin, one of my favorite towns, North Tonawanda, New York. There we go. We got that one. We got Nashville, Austin, Texas. Everybody's just checking in. That's awesome. That's awesome. Long ago, this story actually had its start in Minnesota, Dave, at a place you know well. When I went to go out and work for Wurzbo Company back in 1995, a dude who was the head purchasing agent for the company. Actually, that's how small the company was. The purchasing department was one dude. Okay, that's how small the company was in 1995. One dude. And he was building a house and he was collecting favors left and right. And he would talk to anybody with ears in the factory that he could corner about getting advice about how to build his house and what things he needed for his heating system, etc. And we had an early warning system. I don't know if I told you the story before, but we had an early warning system. The guy whose office faced the parking lot where this guy always parked, if he saw this guy coming in with a set of blueprints under his arm, he would get on the company-wide intercom and he would say, "The Pelican has landed. The Pelican has landed." And that was a message for everybody who had an office to shut their doors, so he wouldn't bother us for the rest of the day asking advice about his house. Well, like a dumbass, I left my door open. I must have been in the men's room or something when the alert went out. He walks by. "Hey, John, how you doing? Hey, you're here. You're never here. Every time I walk by, your door's closed. I'm building a house. Did you know I'm building a house? I'm building a house. Can you help me out here? I got some questions for you." And I went, "Oh God, there goes the morning." And there went the morning. The thing that caught my eye was his master bathroom, where he had a tub like this drawn in for his master bath, and it was a grand master bath. And I said, "That's a nice bathtub. What are you going to do in there?" And he looked at me with a little gleam in his eye and said, "What do you think I'm going to do in there?" I said, "Okay, good for you, man." And then I asked, what was he going to use for a water heater? And he said, the gas company was going to give him for free a 40-gallon gas water heater. if anybody can do the math on that real quick, do you think that a 40-gallon gas water heater has a chance in anything to fill up that tub? What do you guys think? Yeah, nope. Big old note from Eugene. You don't even have to do the math. You can just look at it.
Oh,
Ain't gonna happen. Ain't
no,
gonna happen.
it'll fill it.
Just not
It's
with
just,
hot water.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, not hot water, right? Right.
Yeah, you fill it up with water. That much of
Yeah,
it'll be hot.
yeah, not with hot, like Doug
Yeah,
says. Yeah.
just not with hot water. No. So we went back and forth, and he said, but I'm not. He started to make a deal with me. Like I had something to say about this. He said, well, how about? I'll tell you what. I won't use the tub very often. That should be okay, right? And I said, I don't know what to tell you. It's not like if you only use it every once in a while, the water heater's going to save up hot water for you, because you're nice to it. It's just a math problem. You can't fill that tub. The recovery's not fast enough. The stored capacity isn't big enough. It's just not going to happen. And he's telling me, you just want me to buy something expensive. I said, no, I want you to use the tub in the way you have hinted to me that you want to use the tub. And that's going to involve something bigger. That's going to involve an indirect hot water tank. You're putting a boiler in already. You put in an indirect, a good size indirect, you'll be able to fill that tub. And he wasn't happy about it until I put it into terms he could understand. And the way I put it is this: if this is a picture of your wife trying to use that bathtub, okay, this is going to be you. You're taking a lot of cold showers, Buckaroo. That's just the way it is, okay? What we have here, my friends, is a math problem. Okay, we don't have enough stored capacity in that tank to dump into that tub, nor do we have the rate of recovery to fill that tub, to kind of catch up or to make up for the dump. So it just wasn't going to work. And finally we got through to him. Finally he decided to see the light, if you will. So we're going to talk about some facts tonight about indirect hot water tanks. I just learned this today, and I suspected it was true, but I looked up on the Department of Energy website, and they do classify indirect water heaters as the least expensive way to deliver hot water to fixtures.
Wow.
Even more so than a tankless. It is the least expensive way to deliver hot water to a tank to fixtures, which I suspected it, but that was some verification. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We're going to talk about how piping and pumping matter. All right, sizing the pipe right from the boiler to the indirect, and sizing the circulator properly is going to matter in terms of making sure that this thing works. In a lot of cases, you'll get by with 3/4 inch to that heat exchanger and back to the boiler. Some cases you can't. All right, and boiler sizing matters. The size of the boiler is going to have a big impact on your first hour ratings and your continuous ratings. And no matter what you do, and actually no matter what kind of tank type water heater you have, a mixing valve is going to make that tank bigger. Maybe not physically bigger, but it's going to enhance the stored capacity. The tank's going to think it's bigger, and it's going to act like a bigger tank. So again, it's a great way to get yourself out of some issues here. So cool. Let's take a look at some specs. Now, we dug this out of the updated Superstore catalog. Again, it's not to endorse one over the other. It's just the one that I found and the one that I'm familiar with. So you got to understand the specs, and these sheets tell you a lot. These charts tell you an awful lot. Okay, they tell you the model number, they tell you the heat exchanger surface area and the amount of fluid in that heat exchanger. So if we take a look at the SSU45N, which is the one we're going to be working with, all right. The SSU45N, the heat exchanger surface area is 20 square feet, and that holds 2 gallons of fluid. All right, good to know, 2 gallons worth of fluid. The pressure drop through that coil is 7.9 feet. So it's telling us the head loss. That's going to help us with circulator sizing. So we get 7.9 feet of head in that coil at the flow rate that they're going to recommend, which is on the far end of the chart. We'll get to that. 180-degree boiler water. So now if we have a boiler that has 180-degree water in it, all right, these are our first hour ratings in gallons. All right, if we store it at 140 degrees, we have 212 gallons that first hour. All right, just that first hour. After that, it's all recovery because we've taken care of the stored capacity. If we store it at 115, we get a little bit more. We get quite a bit more. We get 292 gallons. The next column over is if we have 200 degree boiler water, and that, as you would guess, that bumps up the capacity a little bit more. 237 gallons the first hour, stored at $1.40, 322 stored at $1.15. Now, these next two columns are interesting. Oops, let me go back here. These next two columns are interesting. They tell us the BTU output, the DOE capacity, the BTU output of the boilers required to get those first hour ratings. So if I want 212 gallons out of that indirect the first hour, I have to have a boiler output of 141,000. That's all recovery. That's all recovery there. If I'm running 200 degree water and I want the 200 degree ratings, the boiler has to have an output of 161,000. Okay, so it gives us some guidance here as to what to do. These aren't hard and fast rules, but these are guidance. So if you want / need the 212 first hour gallons, all right, divide that by 60, that'll give you the gallons per minute. If you need that at 140 degree water, then you're going to need 141,000 BTU boiler. Way on the far end, you see the recommended flow rate through the heat exchanger. So they put it way on the far end, which is a little confusing, but it's you need a 10 gallon per minute flow rate through the heat exchanger, which has a head loss of 7.9 gallons, right? So, or well, we'll call it 8. 10 gallons a minute, we get 8 foot ahead through that pressure drop. All right, that's the flow rate we need to get the 212 gallons of 140 degree water with 141,000 BTU boiler in that first hour. Write that down. That's all going to be on the test. Anyway, that's kind of how to read this chart. It's what it all means. Let me know if that's clear, if that makes sense. Excuse me. There we go. Let me know if that makes sense to you. And yeah, Rocky Mountain Way should be the funeral tune. I like that. It's better than the way we had. I like it. I like it. All right, cool. So that's understanding the spec sheet. Now, how do you use this data? Well, we're going to talk about storage and recovery. Again, I'm going to break this down a little bit. Again, the SSU 45N, we have that 212 gallons first hour of 140 degree water. So if I divide that by 60, because water comes out of a faucet at a rate of gallons per minute. So if I divide 212 by 60, that means my first hour rate of delivery is 3.5 gallons per minute at 140 degrees. That's important. That's 140 degree water. Now, you're not taking a shower in 140 degree water, right, Dave? I mean, at least not twice. I wouldn't think. You're not going to do that twice.
Not for long, correct, yeah.
It's going to be a quick shower, man, a quick shower. So we got to now think, is a flow rate at 3.5 gallons a minute at 140, knowing I'm going to temper either at the tank or maybe at the tank and again at the fixture. What does that do to the amount of hot water I have? And what am I trying to accomplish? Can I run 2 showers at the same time and not run out of hot water, over a 10-minute period or however long those showers are going to be? Those are some of the questions that you have to ask. And it's going to determine this is all mixing. Once we went towards the end, we're going to talk about how mixing affects your stored capacity. But understand we're mixing down. We're going to mix down at the tank, and then it would also be done back at the fixture. So we have to determine whether that flow rate is enough, Now, I dug this out about shower heads. The national code is 2.5 gallons per minute max out of a shower head. Now, again, that's not 2.5. Now, again, if you're taking a 140 degree shower, all right, 2.5 gallons per minute max, I can go full 60 minutes and not run out of hot water because I'm tapped out at 3.5 gallons. 2.5 gallons at $1.40. Yeah, that's going to be fine for a full hour. Again, nobody's taking a shower for 60 minutes in 140 degree water. So that should be enough. If you think about it, that should be enough for a couple hours. Now, if you live in different states, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, New York, and Vermont limit their shower head flow rates at 2 gallons a minute. California, Hawaii, and Washington go a step further, and they're at 1.8. So the lower the flow in the shower head, the more capacity you have. If we're talking about running a couple of showers at 105 degrees, 108, I don't even know what temperature water I like to shower in. I just know when it's hot enough, and that's it. I don't know what that temperature would be. But is it enough? Is it enough to make those to run 2 showers at the same time, or to run the dishwasher and the shower at the same time, or the washing machine and the shower at the same time. You know,
Or yeah,
generally speaking, they are. It should be.
right. It should be. I mean, I've situation in my own house here. You know, my house went from a house of 2 to a house of 6. And when my in-laws, my mother-in-law decided to do laundry, she used to knock on the house or give us a call, and she would make this announcement: "I'm doing the laundry." She's been used to making that announcement for 35 years. That is code for nobody take a shower. Yep. So I eventually said, "You don't need to keep telling us that." I said, "Because I don't tell you, right?" And she's like, "What?" "Yeah, I did. Actually, you know, it's right. You never do tell me." She's like, "Did you ever think about that?" She's just thought, "Well, I just thought you were a jerk and just didn't think about us." So
A fair assessment. I mean, you can't
yeah.
fault her for making that, for thinking that.
So, yep, all good, all good. Pay
That's the way
attention
it
to the
is.
math. Yep, as we do this.
There you go. There you go. All righty. So there is a catch. Again, there's a catch here. As we said, there is a catch, and it has to do with that boiler size at 141,000 BTUs or 161,000 BTUs. You might wonder, well, why does that matter? How does the boiler size make a difference? Well, it has to do with recovery. And here's the math behind recovery. First things first, doesn't matter what kind of a tank you're talking about. Any kind of a tank's going to have about 75% usable capacity at the temperature you're looking for before it starts to cool down. Because remember, when you take hot water out of a tank, you're putting cold water back in to replace it, right? So just your stored capacity at that temperature is going to be about 75% of that tank's usable capacity. So the rule of thumb is a 40-gallon gas water heater, you got about 30 gallons worth of water to dump before it starts to drop off in temperature, which is why you couldn't fill that tub with a 40-gallon gas water heater. So 75% is a good number to use, because again, we're talking about coil space. The coil takes up some space, and we're talking about replacing hot water with cold water. It's just the way it works. Now, 45-gallon tank like that Superstore at 0.75, 75% of that means we got about 34 gallons available in that tank. All right, about 34 gallons available in that tank for a dump. All right, if I had a regular bathtub, that should be enough, right? Regular bathtub should be enough. Alrighty, that's how we figure out the stored capacity in the tank, or the usable capacity. The stored capacity is the capacity of the tank. The usable capacity is the capacity we have until we start to cool that water down. Now, figuring recovery gets interesting. Now this is a little bit more math, and it's about BTUs and GPM, and it's about and not like BTUH equals GPM divided by delta, that kind of delta T times 500. It's not that kind of a thing. What we're talking about is how many gallons per minute, at what gallons per minute rate can I recover with the BTUs available in the boiler? And we're talking, again, we could talk about priority, domestic hot water priority, where the boiler's focusing on making the hot water, right? How many gallons per minute can I recover with the BTUs I have available? That's the question we have to ask. And here's the formula. All right, here's the formula. It's the DOE, net boiler output, the DOE, not the IBR or HRI. It's the DOE boiler output divided by the product of 8.33 times 60 times 90. All right, those numbers should be familiar to you. Yeah, 8.33, that's how much a gallon of water weighs, right? 1 gallon of water weighs 8.33 pounds. 60 traditionally in most parts of the continental US, 60 minutes in an hour. Okay, there's that New York minute you people live by, Dave. I don't know what that means, but that's what you guys have.
That's right.
And then 90 is kind of the industry standard for temperature rise. In this case, we're looking at 50 up to 140. That's the temperature rise we're looking at. Now, we got some Alaska guys out here. They're going to start to say, wait a minute, middle of winter, I'm pulling water barely above freezing out of the ground, man. This isn't going to work. No, it's not. You got to change that 90 to what number you're looking at, right? You got to change it. That's the way it is. But this is dead of winter out of the ground in cold weather areas. Now you get into other areas of the country where, you know, you get down into Florida, or we got Orlando represented, we got Austin, Texas represented. Chances are that water's not that cold, not 50 degrees coming out of the ground. But chances are you don't have a boiler anyway, right? And you're not looking to make, you know, looking to use an indirect. So it's a discussion. It's a distinction without a difference, I guess we could say. So 8.33 times 60 times 90 is our divisor. A quick, you know, we're going to round that up and use 45,000, because 8.33 times 60 times 90 is 44,000 and change. We're going to move it up and bump it up to 45,000 just to make the math easy. All right. We'll have a couple of digits discrepancy when we get into some of the real numbers, but again, it's immaterial. So we're just going to make the math easy and use 45,000. All righty. So let's do some math here. So let's say I've got that 141,000 BTU boiler, and I'm going to divide it by 45,000. 141,000 divided by 45,000 gives me a rate of recovery of a little over 3 gallons a minute. We're going to call it 3 gallons a minute. So that's my rate of recovery, 3 gallons per minute. I can make 3 gallons a minute worth of 140 degree water with that 141,000 BTUs. Multiply 3 times 60 minutes in an hour, my continuous rate of recovery is 180 gallons per hour. I can do that forever, right? If I wanted to, I could conceivably do that forever. So 3 gallons a minute times 60 minutes, that's 180 gallons. Now, where do we get? As long as there's no heat call, but we're not talking about heat. We're talking about hot water now.
Yep, I know. Yeah,
yeah. There you go. And you'll get cold, but jump in the shower. You should be fine. So that 34 gallons stored plus the 180 gallons recovered give us 214 first hour gallons. Now the chart said 212. There's your rounding error right there. All right, 212, 214, take your pick. That's where that first hour rating number comes from. So if I divide that 214 by 60 minutes, I can flow 3.5 gallons per minute for that first hour of 140 degree water into the shower where that little baby's taking a shower, or in the bathtub where that little baby's taking a bath. No, we're not going to do that. Okay. Now here's the question: does 3.5 gallons per minute of 140 degree water satisfy a 3-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house with 2 full baths? All right, without a big whirlpool tub or anything like that, just and just regular showers, regular shower heads. I got to believe it will. Okay, without knowing the full rate, with the flow rates and everything, and sitting down and calculating the math out, my gut tells me that'd be just fine. That'd be just fine. Eugene says up here it does. It should work. And are there teenage daughters? Asked Douglas. Well, yeah. Hey, long showers. Hey, as long as you don't run out. As long as you don't run out. You know. Still, somebody should invent a valve that will just close the hot water after 15 minutes or 12 minutes or something like that of a shower. Wouldn't that be cool? I know I get out of the shower quicker, but anyway. So 3.5 gallons a minute at 140 degree water, we're tempering down to what, 105, 106, thereabouts. I think you're going to have enough. You're definitely going to have enough. Now, after that first hour, I got 3 gallons per minute forever and ever and ever. If I wanted to just turn on the faucet and let it go, I could do that. So there's the math there, but there's a big if involved. There is a big if involved. And we're going to get to the big if right after the Takeo trivia question of the night. Are you ready for this, Dave?
I'm ready.
All right.
I am.
All right. So the Takeo trivia question of the night has to do with Joe Walsh. All right. Has to do with Joe Walsh. Now, Joe Walsh was one of the founding members of the James Gang. A bunch of guys from Ohio got together and they formed the James Gang in 1966. And Joe stayed with them until 1971 when he left. They had as many artists did, Dave, they had creative differences. We've been able to stay together through it all, but these guys, they had their creative differences, and Joe went off on a solo. States. Yeah, we live in different states, that's right. We don't travel much. We only see each other online. So he left in 1971. He would later join the Eagles, but he also had a very successful solo career. After the James Gang, after the Eagles, actually fast forward into the decade of the 90s. In 1997-98, Joe Walsh made several guest appearances as a guitar player in a popular Cleveland-based situation comedy. What was the name of that sitcom? One of the great unheralded and underappreciated shows of all time. This was a fantastic TV show. I absolutely love this show. That sound you hear is Google just buzzing all over America. It's buzzing all over America. Who gets there first? Who gets there first? All righty. So look that up, baby. Look that up and type in your answers, and we're going to ride again. All right. The James Gang rides again. The James Gang rides again. A couple of you guys got to go back and recheck. All right. Got to go back and recheck. The show you're saying was from Pennsylvania, not Ohio. Okay. Let's think this one through. Okay. Let's think this one through. All righty. The conditions, those big ifs we were talking about. This is all conditional. First off, you need 141,000 BTU net boiler. If you don't, you're not going to get this. All right. The question is, do you need it? All good questions. Second condition is the boiler piping has to be proper. If you want to get that, we're talking 10 gallons a minute, right? That's going to be 1-inch pipe to that heat exchanger. I don't care that the tapping is 3/4. That's just pressure drop. I got to run 10 gallons a minute to that heat exchanger, and to get 10 gallons a minute, I got to have 1-inch pipe at least. All right. I got 1-inch pipe at least. So that has to be done properly. And then again, I'm going to need a circulator that can move that 10 gallons a minute and overcome whatever the head loss is through that heat exchanger, which we know is 7.9 feet ahead, and through the rest of the supply and return piping, however long that might be. So all of these things have to happen in order for you to get that performance. Again, the question is, do you need that performance? In most cases, you don't. And that's why a lot of guys will tell me, hey, I pipe up indirects with 3/4 inch all the time. You're full of crap. It works. I said, yeah, it works because you're getting enough. Okay. You're not getting the 212. You're not getting the rating. You're not getting anywhere close to the rating, but you are getting enough. All right. You are getting enough, and that's okay. Just if something should change, maybe you won't get enough. Or if something different happens, if the house is a little bit different, but you still do things the way you always did it, you might run into that situation where, unbeknownst to you, they decided to put in that human car wash of a shower stall where you and 7 of your closest friends can all bathe together. All right. So those are all things that you have to take into account, or have to consider in each and every job. So where I've seen people get into trouble is where they've done it the same way every time, and it's worked until it doesn't. That one job where it just doesn't do it. And it's not the problem of the indirect. It's not the problem of the circulators, just they're not the right ones. Right? They're not the right ones. First, I want to look at a couple of different scenarios here. If we had a smaller boiler, let's say we didn't have the 141,000 BTU boiler. Instead, the boiler was sized for the heating load, and that boiler has a net output of.
Sorry.
What's
okay. I'm just laughing at some of the answers.
I know, I'm looking over here too, seeing them. I said some of them are pretty good. What if I had a boiler that had a net output of 84,000? Only 84,000, not 141, only 84,000. Well, at that point, my rate of recovery is 1.86 gallons per minute. That would be less than what we had before. That's simple math. I'll let that sink in with everybody. 1.86 gallons per minute times 60 minutes, that's 111 first hour gallons of recovery. Now, we had a lot more prior. All right, this is 111. So the smaller boiler, the BTUs I have available for recovery, just less. That's just arithmetic. All right, that's just arithmetic. So 111 first hour gallons worth of recovery. What does that mean? Well, I've got the 34 gallons stored, 111 gallons recovered. All right, that turns into 145 first hour gallons. Divide that by 60. That's 2.4 gallons per minute of 140-degree water. Again, we're mixing, hopefully at the tank, and again at the fixture. Is that going to be enough for your hot water needs? Again, if they got a big honking tub and a multi-person shower stall, probably not. You know, if they've got 7 bathrooms and they want people to shower, they want 7 showers run at the same time. Okay, no, this isn't going to work. You're going to need a bigger boiler, which again, I would imagine a house with 7 bathrooms and 7 shower stalls is going to be bigger than an 84,000 BTU heating load in many cases. I think. You think? I think it would be. Dave's distracted. He's working on he's working on the answers.
Yes, I'm not listening to you anymore. Right.
That's all right. I'm used to it. And then it's 1.86 gallons per minute continuous as the rate of recovery. So is that big enough? In many cases, you'll get away with it. And in many cases, it'll work just fine. There's going to be that critical mass, however, that perfect storm where it's not going to be. So you got to know we got to have some options here, things we can do. So that's what happens with a boiler when the boiler gets small. It's just a DOE output divided by 45,000. That'll give you your rate of recovery, and you just got to figure out if it's enough. Okay, you just got to figure that out. Now, pipe sizing, based on the flow rate recommended. Okay, we're looking in this case at 10 gallons per minute with that 141,000 BTU boiler. It was 10 gallons per minute. Okay, and the pressure drop was 7.9. Let's call it 8 feet ahead. Now we're going back to the 141,000 BTU boiler here for a minute, because we won't, for the 84,000 BTU boiler, we won't use these numbers. Okay, we won't use these numbers because they're not going to apply. We'll show you how to come up with the right ones. All right, so the recommended flow rate's 10 gallons a minute, and the coil head loss is just under 8 feet ahead. We're going to round up and call it 8 to make the math a little easier. So what does it mean? Well, 10 gallons a minute, that's got to be 1-inch pipe, man. I got to use 1-inch pipe. I don't care that the tapping is only 3/4. That doesn't matter. I got to bring the volume to that tapping, and that tapping, now that it's smaller, through 1 inch going down to 3/4, that's pressure drop, man. That's factored into that 7.9 feet ahead through the coil. All right, that's just there. It's pressure drop. It's not flow restriction or anything else. I can get 10 gallons a minute through 3/4 inch pipe if I needed to, or that 3/4 inch that 3/4 inch coil. That's not a problem. All right. Ideally, you want to keep the tank close and keep your piping and fittings at a minimum, again, to lower the overall pressure drop. As you're going to see, we're going to come in fairly close here. So our example, let's say I've got 40 feet worth of supply and return piping, 20 feet there, 20 feet back. I've got 16 90s, just throwing some fittings, 16 90s. Each 90 is worth 2.5 feet of straight pipe. So that's an additional equivalent length of 40 feet. So 40 feet, 80 feet. Multiply that by 0.04, or 4 feet of head for 4 feet of head for every 100 feet of straight, properly sized pipe. I got an additional 3.2 feet ahead. Add that to 7.9, I'm a little over 11 feet ahead. So for the 141,000 BTU boiler, I'm going to need a circulator that'll do 10 gallons a minute at 11 feet ahead. And that, my friend, is not a 007. 007 is not going to do that. Not going to make it happen. We can look at our
3/4 inch pipe done all day long.
I know, and it works for a lot of houses, and it'll work for houses until you reach the one in which it doesn't. Right? You reach the one in which it doesn't. So here's our 0015 3-speed circulator and our 0013 3-speed circulator. The 13, as would be logical, is bigger than the 15, right? It's our naming nomenclature that by the end of 2028, by 2028, you won't have to worry about it anymore. But that's just where we're at. 10 gallons a minute, 11 feet ahead. That is just outside of high speed on the 0015 3-speed. Dave, would you use that circulator?
I would.
Why would you do that?
On high.
On
I'd
high.
make sure it's on high, yes.
Yes.
Because it's darn close, because we've also done some estimates here.
Exactly. Yep. That circulator is going to be just fine. And here's the thing: the worst thing that's going to happen, when we do our GPM calculations for indirects, for the heating side of it, for the boiler side of it, we use a 30-degree delta T. So it's GPM equals B2H divided by 30 times 500. The worst thing that's going to happen here, because we have the horsepower in the boiler to do this, the worst thing that's going to happen here is when I'm trying to make that 90-degree jump in water temperature when it's the dead of winter, the worst thing's going to happen is I might have a 32, 33-degree delta T. That's going to be the worst thing that happens. And if that's the worst thing that happens, I don't know. Questions here about the 15E or the 18E and set it up with the app. You got to make sure that works with the curve. Okay, we can look that up. I didn't include it here. If the curve will do that, yeah, I mean our curve goes from 18 foot ahead down to 16 gallons a minute. it's going to be close. We're going to be in the same boat. Under design conditions, you're going to have a wider delta T than 30. And if we're good with that, we're good with that. If the horsepower's in the boiler to make it happen, then it'll work. Yeah.
But if you're
So-
looking at the 7 or the 7E,
7E, no, not going to work.
it's going to be the 7E is going to get you probably around at that point. You're going to flow about 8.5 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at the difference between the 18E and the 15E, well, the 18E, you're going to put it to full speed. You're not finding the flow because you're going to put it, it's going to have to run at maximum speed based on where this flow and head requirement is. If you're going to do that, use the 15E. It's less expensive and you're going to set it to high anyway. They're going to be running the exact same speed. They're going to be running the exact same efficiency, 44 watts. At that point, I would say the 18E doesn't buy you anything. It doesn't help you any. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, Douglas, because that's just understanding the products and what they do and how they work. Because you will find that if you put the 18E on here and try to get to 10 gallons a minute, 11 feet ahead, A, you probably can't. B, you're gonna have that thing running at 100%. And if it's running at 100%, why not use the 15E at 100%? It's less money and it does the same thing. Doesn't have an app, but you don't need it at that point.
Right.
So yeah, let me know let me know if that makes sense, Douglas. That's a great question. All righty. Now let's go back to the smaller boiler. We're just jumping all over the place here. Let's go back to the smaller boiler. See, this is one discussion Dave and I always have. Jumping around like this makes perfectly good sense in my head. Dave keeps telling me you went from here to here and then back to here and over to here. What the hell are you doing? So I don't know. It makes perfectly good sense in my head, but Dave being an engineer tends to think linearly. I'm an artist, man. I'm all over the place. What can I tell you?
An artist, okay? Yep.
Yeah, that's me. I'm an artist. Ask anybody. They'll tell you I'm an artist.
I thought it was insanity, but that's all right.
Same thing. 84,000 BTUs divided by 30 times 500. That'll give us our flow rate now. 30 times 500 is going to be 5.6. That's going to be the best we can do here is 5.6 GPM to that coil. That's the best we're going to come up with. All right, we can go 10 there, but it's not going to help us any. We're just going to wind up with a smaller delta T. We're not going to get any more BTUs. So 5.6 GPM. That puts us back in the realm of 3/4 inch pipe, by the way, Dave. That puts us back into 3/4 inch pipe. And then we can use this guy. All right, our B&G system sizer wheel. Kudos to B&G for coming up with that. And there's the original right back there, man. At 5, if we know the head at 10 gallons a minute is 7.9 feet ahead, by using scale 5 on the B&G system sizer wheel, we can find out what the head loss is at 5.6 gallons per minute. B&G has an app that'll do that too, which is very useful. And what we'll find is that's going to be about 2.5 foot ahead. We cut the flow almost in half. The head loss is going to go down dramatically and drastically down to 2.5 gallons per minute or 2.5 feet ahead, plus the 3.2 of my supply and return piping, which is now 3/4 inch. We're going to talk about 6 foot ahead. So 5.6 gallons per minute now at 6 foot ahead with that smaller boiler. That should be plenty. And that's going to put us right here. All right. Now, would you go low speed, Dave, or would you go medium speed in this application?
I'd probably go medium.
Medium's not going to hurt you.
Low is, I mean, if we're normally when I'm sizing a circulator for a heating system, we're trying to get that efficiency, we're trying to get that comfort level, all that other jazz. Here, I need hot water. Right? Doesn't hurt to give me more flow. It's not drastic like dropping in on a 13.
Right.
So I fall right in the middle there. Yeah, I fall right in the middle on this one.
Yeah. If you went to speed 1, your delta T will be wider on those maximum temperature rise conditions. If you went to 2, your delta T will be smaller than 30 all the time.
Right.
And it's in this case, you want that recovery. And I think I'd be okay with 3/4. I'd be okay with putting it on low speed here.
Right.
Because
I think we'd be fine too. Yes.
Yeah.
But here I think it doesn't have to go to high.
Right.
do have that choice since we do fall in the middle. And again, how close did you do that accurate, those calculations at 6 gallons a minute, 6 foot ahead?
Exactly. Those were estimates. In this case, your 007 is going to be perfectly adequate. The 070, perfectly adequate. Both will be big enough. Both will be bigger than they need to be, right? Both will be bigger than they need to be. And again, when we're talking about recovery, we're willing to look the other way on a couple of things when it comes to overpumping. So cool. All righty, now caveats galore here. Again, we're storing at $1.40, and we're presuming we may have a mixed valve at the tank, which is always a good idea, but we're definitely mixing at the fixture. All right, if we're storing at 140, it's a real good idea to mix at the tank, just for safety's sake, if nothing else. But that mixing and then mixing again certainly extends the capacity of the tank. It makes it, it allows you to do a lot of things here. That 90-degree temperature rise, again, that's worst case scenario. That's water coming out of the ground at 50 degrees in the middle of winter, and in some places it's going to come out a little colder than that. We get that. You got to design around that. Okay, those are the numbers you're going to, if you know what they are, realistically, you got to work with those. But 90-degree delta T is what ASHRAE uses as its standard. So that's the worst case. And your usage obviously varies. Okay, do you take showers taken one after another? Are showers taken concurrently? There we go. Do we have 2 or 3 showers running at the same time? Those are the things that you have to ask and find and get answers for. Now, tempering valves at the water heater, at the fixture, or at the water heater. If we're going to temper, tempering is good. All right, temper-fi. Tempering is really, really good. Okay. What you're looking at is our Taco's second ever product. Did you know that, Dave?
I did.
He did. This is our second ever product, going back to 1926 or 27. I can't remember which.
27.
Going back to the late 20s. There we go.
That's when we moved out of New Jersey into Providence. Is when we came out with that.
Our first product was an indirect water heater. Really, irony of ironies. Our first product was an indirect water heater. It was a sidearm water heater. It was a cast iron casing with a copper coil. In this case, the domestic water ran through the copper coil, and the boiler water or steam would go into the cast iron casing, and it would heat up the water like crazy. I mean, it made a lot of hot water, a lot of really, really, really hot water. That really, really, really hot water led to the development of the tempering valve, because a few scald babies later, we needed to find a way to protect that and bring that water temperature down. So that came out in 1927. So a tempering valve helps from a safety standpoint. It also helps from a capacity standpoint. It makes the tank bigger. It makes the tank at least think it's bigger. All right. The tank can even have delusions of grandeur here because of this little valve. It makes the tank think it's bigger than it really is, and it acts bigger than it really is. And by golly, Dave, there's a math formula here. All right, there's a math formula, and I didn't get that one. I changed the fonts, and I'm going through all of the entire presentation to turn those little squigglies back into divided by signals. I knew I was going to miss one, and there it is. Okay, so just do me a favor. Pretend you see a divider sign where you see that little squiggly thing. The math formula is as follows: T mix minus T inc divided by T stored minus T inc. That equals the storage factor. Let's identify the terms. T mix, that's the temperature of the mixed water going out to the fixture, or the temperature of the water coming out of the tempering valve, out of the mixing valve, let's put it that way. So that's T mix minus T inc. T inc is incoming. That's the water coming out of the ground. We're using 50 degrees as an example here. Divided by T stored minus T inc. T stored is the temperature of the water you're storing in the tank. All right, what temperature am I storing in the tank? And we're going to look at 140 here, minus T inc, the incoming water temperature. I do that math, that gives me something called the storage factor. I'm going to use the storage factor in another math formula to figure out my tempered capacity or my mixed capacity. So let's create some capacity here. T mix in our example here is going to be 112 degrees. There's a reason we chose 112 degrees. It's not namby-pamby. We actually, or willy-nilly, that's the word I'm looking for. It's not willy-nilly instead of namby-pamby. It has a reason for picking 112. So 112 minus the T ink of 50 divided by 140, my temperature of the stored water, minus T ink of 50. And that's going to give me my stored capacity. So let's simplify. 112 minus 50 is 62. 140 minus 50 is 90. 62 divided by 90 gives me a storage factor of 0.69. What am I going to do with the storage factor? I'm going to divide the usable capacity of that tank. The usable capacity, the tank capacity minus 25% or 75% of that tank capacity is what I'm talking about. The usable capacity of the tank divided by the storage factor, and that gives me tempered capacity. So I had a usable capacity of 34 gallons in that SSU 45. So I had a usable capacity of 34 gallons divided by 0.69. That gives me now a tempered capacity of almost 50 gallons, almost 50 gallons. That is nearly a 50% increase in the capacity of that tank, of the usable capacity of that tank. So simply by adding a mixing valve, we've increased the capacity by nearly 50%. That buys you a lot of time, all right? That buys you a lot of time, and that's a good thing to do. Now, Dave, you explain this so much better than I do. Why 112?
Why?
There's a reason.
There's
a reason.
Yes. The reason for the 112 is because of the stored temperature that we set the indirect tank to for here. So here we set it for 140 degrees. And if you're maintaining that tank at 140, your mixed delivery needs to be 112. So the differential, so when you look at mixing valves, there's a lot of different designs to mixing valves out there. What, a lot of times we pay attention to the flow rate. We may take a look at the different ratings, codes in your neck of the woods. You may have a different design, like we have some that are adjustable, there's some that are fixed. The fixed ones you're not going to be able to use here because that'd be fixed at 120 on the output side. So you might see some valves, and a lot of them, set for a 27-degree differential in order for the valve to operate properly. So you got to see that large differential of 27 degrees or more. There are some valves that are 10, and I've even seen some valves that are 5. Now the Takeo ones, we don't have a 5 one. We do have a 10, and we do have a 27 degree. And a lot of times you might hold those two valves in your hand and say, well, hey, why am I going to pick one over the other? And overruling reason you might buy one over the other is going to be dollars. And you end up with a 27-degree valve. And then if you have, say, this set for 120 and you have your tank at 140 or even less, you get a little sandwiching happening. You get a little hot, cold. So therefore it blends in the pipes by the time it gets to the fixture, and it's not the same temperature you thought it was. So you want to see that 27 or more. So if you want to deliver 120, then you should be having this tank set for 147 or higher. So
or use the 10 or use the 10 degree.
Or get a 10 degree or even a 5-degree valve if you need to. Right. Yes. The ASSC numbers. Thank you, Rich. I was thinking of that. Correct. Yep. The ASSE. So that's usually the code settings for mixing valves on their reaction and settings, if you could change them and stuff like that. So,
right. So that makes it, that's good to know, and that's all going to be in the installation manual or the instruction sheet or the spec sheet for each one. So you got to make sure you know what you're holding in your hand. Is it a 27-degree valve? Is it a 20-degree or a 10-degree valve? And that's going to make all the difference. Again, if you have a 27-degree valve and you set it for a 20-degree drop like that, you're going to, like Dave said, you're going to have hot water, then cold water, then hot water again.
Right.
Yeah. Very good. All righty. Now let's have a little fun. You want to have a little fun? Fun with mixed valves? I love having fun with mixed valves. This is a good time. We're going to push
the fun to have with a mixed valve. It's not even
so much fun. It's not even funny. We're going to push the old envelope, Dave. We're going to push that envelope so far that it's going to just disappear. That's how far we're pushing the envelope. We're going to store at 160 degrees. All right. We got a tank that's not keeping up, man. And we got a mixing valve on here and everything, and it's just not doing it. So we're going to crank that sucker up to 160 degrees before you start. I know we are not going to, it's going to be less efficient, all right, because we're storing it about 160 instead of 140. It's not going to be as efficient, right? I get that. That's okay. We're not worried about efficiency because we already have the least expensive way of making hot water, according to the DOE. We're just asking it to do a little bit more. So we're going to store it 160. Any bacteria in that tank, not going to live. It's going to be boiled like to a crisp. It's awful. Anyway, we're going to go up to 160. So we do our math. 62 divided by 110, that's going to give us a 0.56 storage factor. Now we divide our usable capacity of 34 gallons by 0.56. Now we have a stored or tempered capacity of 60 gallons. That's the same usable capacity as an 80-gallon tank. What we've just done by goosing that water temperature and then mixing at the fixture is, or mixing at the tank rather, we've turned a 45-gallon tank into an 80-gallon tank, more or less. All right. So think of that as a solution to an underperforming tank. You've got this situation where you simply can't keep up with the demand for hot water. What am I going to do? Well, goose the stored temperature, mix down, and then mix down to 112. Make that temperature swing nice and big, that temperature differential nice and big. You'll make that tank think it's a heck of a lot bigger than it is. And you'll have, instead of what did we have, 49 gallons, now we got 6. That's another 21 gallons of standby. All right. That's of 160 degree water. That's going to help us out. That's going to should get us through sticky situations. Now, if it's a 45-gallon tank and they want to run 12 showers at the same time, it may or may not help us. But it's that's just an ill-conceived tank in the first place at that point.
So this is my house, right? This is what I did here. So when I was talking about that before, I have a tiny indirect tank, 25-gallon indirect tank. All right. If I were to put a 60-gallon indirect tank in my boiler room is a closet. It is not even 6 feet wide. If I put that in there and I've got 7 zones of radiant in this house, I would have stuff I'd never see again, right? The manifolds and pumps would be gone, all right? In order to service them, I'd have to pull the tank. So I have this little tiny tank in my house and I have it set for 155 degrees and I deliver 115 out to everywhere. And we don't run out of, and I got 4 showers. I got 4 showers. Now, I don't know if anybody here, I don't know if we've run all 4 at the same time. I know we've run 3. I don't think we've done 4 at the same time. So running 3 at the same time, we're doing pretty good. And
it sounds like, sounds like an experiment.
Think I got to run 4 now?
Yeah, next week on Takeo After Dark, let's just take 4 showers.
Just take 4 showers? I'll run from shower to shower? Yeah.
Well, have all 4 of them run. You never mind. Anyway, we have one. Alex says downside to 160s, it'll build up a lot of calcium. Yeah, you got minerals in the water that they'll probably precipitate out, become rock again. That's why God gave us water softeners. Those things are kind of important. Get that stuff out of there as best you can. If you're going to do that, I think there's never one. That's the thing about fixing this problem. May create another problem elsewhere that you didn't have before. So that's why you look at this stuff holistically. If I do this, will this be a problem? And if it's going to be a problem, now I've got to take that into account. Absolutely.
Right. And this again, we're looking at indirects here. If you had a standard fuel fired water heater, again, they don't like running those high elevated temperatures. They'll ruin the warranties. They don't last as long, all that other stuff. But that works there too. So tonight's class was about indirects, but what we showed you here will work for regular water heaters as well. It's not just for an indirect. We just don't like pushing indirects over that 145 degrees typically. So.
Yeah. And when we talk about water quality on the boiler side, water quality on the plumbing side is important as well. Water softener, if you're worried about calcification and those hard water turning into rock in your system because we're storing it at 160, well, that calcium needs to be dealt with anyway because it's still going to have rock-like things at 140, you're still going to have some issues. You still have, hard water is hard water. It doesn't soap up nicely. It doesn't lather up nicely. Clothes don't last as long if you're washing it in hard water. I mean, there's a bunch of downsides to hard water. I remember when I was selling water treatment for my dad's company, and I was reading out of the features and benefits manual, and I was saying, talked to a husband and wife and saying, well, the thing about hard water is, you wind up with, dry skin and dull and lifeless hair. And the woman looked at me and says, so you think my skin is dry and my hair is dull and lifeless? Is that what you're telling me? And I went, oh God, I got to learn how to do this better. Oops. They didn't buy a water softener from me.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah.
But anyway, that's what happens. So anyway, math formulas, folks, go to your handout section. Actually, this page is a JPEG in the handout section for you to download, just so you have the formulas handy. All right, tank capacity times 0.75, that's your usable capacity. Recovery equals boiler output divided by 8.33 times 60 times 90, or 45,000. 45,000 between friends, that works. The usable capacity plus recovery is your first hour rating, and then just the recovery is your continuous rating, and then T mix minus T inc divided by T stored minus T inc, that gives you your storage factor, and then storage factor, then your usable capacity. This isn't written down here, but your usable capacity divided by storage factor gives you your tempered capacity. So cool. All righty. Dave, did you write down the winners?
Tonight? No.
Yeah.
Nobody got it right.
I saw a few answers that were right. I saw a lot of wrong answers in there too, by the way. I saw a lot of wrong answers. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
And
Joe Walsh.
because we didn't have the screen up any longer, I took their answers as well. Because they didn't have they're not reading the question the entire time, because you had to pay attention to the word Cleveland-based sitcom. So 'cause there were other sitcoms out there that Joe Walsh was on. All right, but John was looking for specifically Cleveland-based.
Specifically Cleveland-based, yes.
The best answer I got tonight. All right, never mind. Go ahead. Go first.
All right. Well, anyway, 1997-98, he made several guest appearances as a guitar player in a popular Cleveland-based sitcom. What was the name of that sitcom? It was The Drew Carey Show. One of the greatest, absolute greatest sitcoms ever. And I've got another piece of trivia for you, which I'll bet you didn't know. The actress that you're looking at there, Krista Miller. Do you know who her mother was? By the look on your face, Dave, you have no idea who I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Susan St. James. The actress Susan St. James was her mother. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I went down a rabbit hole of the Drew Carey Show on Wikipedia today, and this is what I found out. So I didn't know that. I did not know that. So anyway, very cool. Very cool. Not Barney Miller, Krista Miller, Richard. Krista Miller. All righty.
One of the best answers of the night tonight, when I giggled right in the middle of you working there. Eugene points out that the America's Most Wanted.
That wouldn't be I think so. That would not be that wouldn't be out of the realm of Joe Walsh. I met Joe Walsh. Did I ever tell you this? I met Joe Walsh.
No.
I met Joe Walsh when Mariska Hargitay's mother was she had her head cut off in the car. What was her oh God, I know who it is, Richard. Anyway, I met Joe Walsh. I was working at a radio station in Worcester, Massachusetts, WFTQ, and its sister station, the rock station, was WAAF. I did the news on both stations. I'm sitting in the newsroom typing away, and I see this straggly looking dude come wandering through, and he's like, he looks like he's just got out of rehab. I mean, and he goes, "Hey man, where's that WAAF studio?" And I said, "See that door like 6 inches in front of your face? Yeah. See what it says, WAAF studio? Yeah, that's it right there. Oh, cool, man. Peace, thanks." And he stumbles in, and I go, "Geez, they let anybody in here." And I'm typing away. Not 45 seconds, maybe 30 seconds afterwards, the promotions director comes running into the newsroom in a panic. And she's saying, did Joe Walsh just come in here? Did Joe Walsh just come in here? She said, Joe Walsh, I don't know, just some burned out guy just walked into the studio. That was him. That was him. Oh, God, I thought I lost him. He was doing a concert in town that night, and he came in to do an appearance on the radio station, and she turned her back on him for a minute, and he walked away, and just wandering around the station trying to find the studio.
I thought I lost him.
I thought I lost him. Jane Mansfield, thank you. That's right. She lost her head. Yes, there you go. But anyway, yeah, that's my brush with Joe Walsh. You know, I thought he was burnout that wandered into the studio, and I didn't know. Yeah, go in there, man. Leave me alone. And it was Joe Walsh.
That's funny.
I didn't even ask him about Funk 40, where Funk 1 through 48 went. If I'd known it was Joe Walsh, I would have asked him.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyway, hunt him down. Yeah, we had to go hunt him down. Oh, she was so panicked. It was hysterical. I thought I lost him. All righty. You want to take the screen? You got your wheel of victory?
I do. I do have the wheel of death.
Not the wheel of death, the wheel of victory, man. While Dave's working on that, let's throw it out there. Was this useful for you? Was this helpful? I love putting together stuff like, oh God, you put Mimi on there.
I had to find a nice big picture of her for you.
You are not well. I'm sorry. Dave, you remind me of Paul Revere's Ride, man. a little light in the belfry. Hey, I like historically accurate humor. Okay, there we go. All right, we got a lot to go. A lot of winners here. So cool. Spin away.
All righty. So
this is for the backpack cooler, right?
Yeah. For those of you, I haven't been home much to do this from. So in case anybody is curious as to the backpack cooler.
Oh, looky loo.
Yeah, man.
That could be a lunch box.
If you don't want to use the backpack section of it, it does have a shoulder strap as well. That'll come with it. So
make a dandy lunchbox for like Herman Munster or some, you know. Like Fred Flintstone, maybe put his Bronto burgers in there or something, man.
Yeah, it is a great lunch bucket too. Yes, that's right. And it holds about 6 bottles of wine.
It's a heck of a lunch.
Yeah.
That's not a lunch hour. That's a lunch afternoon. All right, let's see who gets this.
All right, let's see. Let's spin away. Click to spin. And it's the McGrath.
McGrath. All right, Mr. McGrath. Congratulations. Woohoo. All right,
and
who's next?
We're going to do 2 coolers tonight. So, Mr. Martinson.
Kevin Martinson gets a cooler. All right, 2 coolers tonight. That's a big night.
So I know that I did not send out last week's yet. I was, as you guys remember, I was away. Actually, we all were away last week, right? Was that last week that we were together?
No, that was 2 weeks ago.
No, I was in Atlantic City last week. That's right. I was
2 weeks ago. We were in Chicago. Hey, Rich says to spin again. Give the cooler to somebody else.
What's that?
Rich said to spin again. Give his cooler to someone else. He needs shirts.
All right, Matt. You've got a T-shirt right now. All right. Thank you, Matt. All right, let's spin again for the cooler again. Let's see who is getting this one. Aaron
Bruce gets the cooler. All right. Aaron, I think you won a shirt last week, right?
I don't see him on last week's.
That'd been the week. I think it was the week before when we were in Chicago.
Yeah, I've got some lists elsewhere. So, all right. So Aaron's got the cooler, and let's do another T-shirt here. Mr. Ryan Moore.
Rymo. Ryan Moore, congratulations. Congratulations.
Awesome.
All
Awesome.
right. Hey, I got another piece of information for you, Dave, and this may be
Okay.
of interest to folks out there as well. I was scrolling through Facebook yesterday and I saw a video ranking the 15 greatest progressive rock bass players from progressive rock groups. It included the bass player John Waters from Pink Floyd, Keith Lake from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and guy from Yes, and all these other bands. You will never guess who was rated number 5, ahead of John Waters and Keith Lake. You'll never guess who was rated the 5th greatest progressive rock bass player of all time.
You're right. I won't.
Your friend
Oh,
and
yes.
mine, Derek Moore.
Really?
Yes. Derek Moore. Derek Moore, for those of you who don't know who Derek Moore is, Derek Moore, I first met Derek as the owner of Reisman Plumbing in New Jersey. All right. He was an English guy. He came to one of my classes. He sat in front. He asked a bunch of questions. We got to be good friends. Got to know him very, very well over the years as a plumbing and heating contractor from New Jersey. Very successful one. Probably about 5-6 years after I got to know him, he was telling me about, back in the 70s and 60s and 70s, he was in a band, as a kid. I said, oh, I was in a band. I mean, I couldn't play an instrument, but we had a band, and, we made noise and girls kind of ignored us anyway. I was a band. And he goes, yeah, we toured all over Europe and all over the US. We were a pretty big deal. I said, the hell was your band? Nectar, Nektar, Nectar. I said, I've kind of heard of you guys. I remember listening to some Nectar as a kid and in college and stuff. And then I went to go back and look at them. They were a certified big frickin' deal. Kind of like almost a poor man's Pink Floyd. They weren't a jam band, but they had some great songs. And he was the number 5th rated progressive rock bass player of all time. The guy just
Wow.
ahead of him was Geddy Lee from Rush.
Wow.
So
And
I was
still playing.
Yeah. Derek's
He
still
just played about a month ago. I know Mike Miller went and saw him recently.
right. They're still touring. They're down to, I think, just 2 original members now because the drummer passed away last year suddenly. So it's just Derek and the light show guy, who was actually a fairly integral part of the band, are the 2 original guys from back in 1969, 1970. They're the 2 original guys left, but some of the other guys that are in the band have been with Nectar for a long time. So they're out. He's out touring just for the hell of it. I think he just likes it. They play in really small venues, and they've got a hardcore following. I can remember seeing him play in Hampton, Massachusetts several years ago. And he came down after the show and sat with me and my buddy and chatted for about 45 minutes. And there's just a line of people coming up asking him for his autograph. And they've got their original vinyl. And they said, wow, I'm meeting Derek Moore. Wow, I just said, this is cool, man. This is cool. It's again, not Joe Walsh in the AAF studio, but it's still pretty cool, man. So
Still, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
the number 5 rated progressive rock guitar bass player of all time. I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So guys, go out there and look up Nectar, Nektar on Spotify, or actually there's a website with all of their music on it for free. So go get it. And you're right, Richie. Very, very humble guy. Just a one of the sweetest, nicest men you'd ever want to meet. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he didn't say boo about being a rock star.
No.
He did.
How many times we've met and hung out with him at training classes and different events he had going on back here on the East Coast over the years. It was, I didn't learn that for years. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to talk about 007s and pumps and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
He told me after he left Nectar, he had just had enough of the rock and roll lifestyle. How he got into the plumbing business was Nikki, his wife, his fiance wife, I guess we were married at the time. Her father had owned the plumbing business in New Jersey, and he was going on vacation. He asked Derek, can you just mind the store for me for a couple of weeks while we're on vacation? And Derek said, sure, mate. Just went ahead and did it. And he caught the bug right away. And he said, I'm never going back. This is I'm gonna make a living doing this. And he made a hell of a living for himself. Just really, really wonderful guy. But he said he got a call not long after he left Nectar and it was a band that was starting up, and they were looking for a bass player, and they made him a sweetheart deal. And he goes, "Nah, how long can it last? I'm tired of this stuff." You know what that band was?
I'm afraid to know.
Foreigner.
Wow.
They made it pretty big in the late 70s into the 80s. So that's just the way it is. So hey, he didn't miss it. He didn't miss it. All righty, man.
Well, he
Cool.
did. He went back to it.
He did go back to it. Yes, he did. That's right. He did. But that's
Yeah.
after he retired. He actually, like 2007, 2008, they had a big reunion of the original band. And he played in a couple of the concerts, and then he played in like 2, 3, or 4. One was in Germany and everything. They were big deals. You go on YouTube, you can find videos of this. It's really pretty cool. Yeah, he did that. He just said, "I've had enough," and he let it go, and he left. And then a few years later, the lead guitar player died. He died, and it kind of brought him back a little bit. And then he kind of put what was left of the band together, plus past members that had been in and out of the band. He said, let's do this. They just cut an album, and they play all their stuff. They put on a fantastic show if you ever get a chance to go. So anyway, that's that, man.
Yeah, I was just Miller was just he he was telling me this story a couple of weeks ago. So he was in Detroit. So Nectar was playing in Detroit, so he was going out to the show. Yeah.
Wow.
So Miller happened to be on the Canadian side, working, and he's like, "Derek's across the water, man, right across right across there, the border. So let me go and see him." So as he's crossing, now he's driving across, he's not flying. And he takes out his passport. He's got his passport with him, and he's going across the border. And next thing you know, he's up against the hood of the car. What the? What do you mean? So I mean, he tells his whole story. He's sitting there, he's driving across, and "Sir, turn the truck off. Hand me your keys." "Oh no, turn the truck off, put your hands on the steering wheel." And he does that, and he goes, "Now hand me the keys." "Well, you just told me to keep my hands on the steering wheel," which is all right. So that's Miller, and he's just like, "I'm not sure what you want me to do yet," So then all of a sudden, hands him the keys, come out of the truck, that hands him the passport. They're already looking at the passport. Now Mike comes back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
But he also has a Nexus card. And for those of you that are not in Canada, Nexus card is kind of like your TSA pre-check. You just scream right by, and nobody checks anything, and you just get right through. But they're looking at his passport, and they see that he's come back and forth to the country so many times, but not a single stamp is in the passport, right?
Oh.
And there happens to be a warrant out for somebody else by the name of Mike Miller as well. So that's why he was all of a sudden throwing up on the hood of the car. Oh yeah, on the way to the Nectar show. Yeah, this is just a couple of weeks ago. I just learned about this. So
I didn't hear about that. That's funny.
Yeah.
It's not because you never know now these days. You never know what could happen to the guy.
Yeah.
But wow. Oh man.
So in case anybody wondering, Mike Miller, he runs our Canadian division outside of Toronto for TACO.
A fine gentleman as well, and a worthy competitor on the golf course. We took the cup back. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, Doug, you learn all sorts of things to take away after dark.
Indeed, indeed.
Get us rolling for a little bit, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
all righty. Well, hey, any questions out there on anything we talked about tonight? Again, was it useful for you? I want to know, again, was this stuff that any new material here for you, stuff you didn't know? Was it a good refresher? Just want to make sure we keep delivering content for you folks that is useful, that's going to help you. Most all the indirect manufacturers, like we use Superstore as the model, but they all have excellent literature and help, and guides to help you size them properly and make sure you get the most out of them. But this, we try to take a piping and pumping approach and a mixed valve approach here on how to maximize that. So hopefully that was useful for you.
Yeah, I've seen way too many self-inflicted wounds with indirect tanks.
That's a good way of
People
putting
end
it.
up living with it, and nobody pays attention to it. They just come down and say, hey, something's not working. You come downstairs, you take a look, you see the pipe is there, there's no water on the floor, the pump is running, and it's all going, right? I don't know what's wrong, and you're just picky homeowners or whatever. They're complaining. You got hot water. I see the tank, I see the temperature, everything's working. It's just these little things that, if you happen to be in somebody's house, ask them the question. Ask them, do you ever run out of hot water? Take a look at some stuff downstairs. I might be able to help you without having to say, change the boiler, change an indirect tank. Sometimes the simple of addition of a mixing valve. And then again, maybe even upsizing the pump properly too, making sure the pipe is done right, because even if you left that tank piped in 3/4 inch and a 007, adding a 3/4 inch is not necessarily going to fix that. Okay.
Right.
It's going to give you very small incremental changes, but not enough on what they're expecting. So, but the simple addition of putting in the right pump, maybe changing the pipe sizing, but really dropping in that mix valve does add a lot to a project.
Right. Right.
You'd be surprised. Yeah. And we walk out of there as heroes, and fixing a problem they didn't know they had. It's not like we're selling them something. It's just, you know what? I can make it better for you. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So if you're in the house for one thing, just take a look for the other. So
very good. All righty, folks. Hey, another great night. Another wonderful Wednesday. So we got 2 more for this season.
2 more.
Right.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. 2 more. That's it. So next Wednesday night, which we will not be at the factory. We'll be at the factory for the finale.
Yes, we will be.
We will all be together. You, me, and Jason, we will be together in Cranston, Rhode Island, broadcasting to you live from TACO Central headquarters and the training room where it all happens. You will be in the room where it happens, my friends.
That's right. Next week, I'm not sure where I'm going to be able from. I'll be up in Maine, but I'm not sure about my internet connection. So for me, it's going to have to wait and find out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
If not, Jason and I will persevere without you. We'll try our very best.
That's right. Yep. So next week, not sure what's going down.
Cool.
Well, you might have been in Rhode Island next week, you were saying.
No, as it turns out, I'm not going to be in Rhode Island next week.
Okay.
I will be here next week. So
gotcha. All right.
It all works. It all works. And then next Thursday, I will be at the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
You were saying that. That's right.
Yes, a good friend of mine is being inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Rod Fritz. He was a longtime news hound and news jockey in Boston. Being inducted with Dale Arnold, who was the voice of the Boston Bruins for a long time, and Dennis Eckersley, the pitcher, who was a broadcaster for the Boston Red Sox on NESN for many, many years, along with a couple of other longtime Boston media giants that are getting added to the Hall of Fame. So this is going to be kind of cool. I've never been to a Hall of Fame luncheon before, so this is going to be kind of neat.
That's excellent. Yeah.
I don't know if they've heard of TACO After Dark, so they probably won't be. I don't think we'll be on the list. And James Winlow said, is next week Aaron says, is next week the 100th class, or is it? I think it's the last one. I'm getting back.
I was doing some research, and because we use 2 different accounts, my numbers are not adding up properly at the moment because I've got some overlap. Remember, we started TACO After Dark on your account,
right?
Then we switched it over to TACO's account. So I got to go back and double check all those numbers.
Okay, I want to say it's the last one. If not the last one, it might be the first one in the summer. We'll see.
Yep.
Could be next week. I don't know. Do the math, Dave.
I'll do the math later. I got to check it again. I just got to sit there and scroll through 5 years worth of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, there's a heck of a lot more webinars than TACO After Darks that we've done over the last 5 years. So, yeah.
Yep. But it's been a ride. It's been a ride. And we're not going to slow down. We got something, guys. So a few of you left, but we got some cool stuff happening in the summer to kind of to inject some different life into TACO After Dark. And I think you guys are going to really like it. It's going to be a little different, but I think ultimately it's going to be one of those changes that'll be for the best. So we'll see how it goes. All right, folks. Thanks again. Have a wonderful night. Dave, good to see you, man. Peace out.
You too, brother. And everybody else out there. See you all next week. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.